Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video, I'm bringing to you my 5-star predictions TBR for 2024. My plan is to read all these 10 books in the TBR by the end of June, that is the first half of the year itself. But I'm not sure because my reading mood and taste might differ based on the other books that I read across the first half of the year. But my tentative plan is to finish reading all of these 10 books in the first half itself. I'll tell you guys the reasons behind why I'm predicting these books to be 5 stars as I talk about the books. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first book is a historical fantasy and it's been more than 4 months since I bought it itself. I got it as a present from my brother for my birthday last year, and for some reason I've been putting off reading this book for quite a while now. But my plan is to finish reading this in March itself. So the book that I'm planning to read is Babel by R.F. Kuang, which is a standalone historical fantasy by the author. The main reason why I want to read this first from this TBR is because of all the things that are going on with this book because of the Hugo Awards. I have read a few articles and I've seen a lot of people talking about it. And I also know that from reading Yellowface, this book cannot be anything less than good. Again, I've not heard anything negative about this book at all from anyone who has read it on BookTube. It is quite a chunker, so it might take a little bit of time for me to read, and I'm also planning to annotate this book thoroughly as I keep reading it. I know that the writing of the author in this one will be great, and from my experience with reading Yellowface, I also predict this to be a page turner. So if any of you guys have read this one or any of the other books that I'm going to talk about in this video, please do let me know down in the comments how they are and what I can expect from them and whether they'll be 5-star reads for me or not. The second one is the first book inside an adult epic fantasy series, and it is also the first adult fantasy series by this author. I've recently been reading a lot of this author's books and I've been enjoying them thoroughly. That's why I just want to keep the train running and want to read all the other books by her too. She's also the most popular author on Fantasy BookTube especially, and it is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I'm actually talking about both the books which I own on my physical TBR already. I've not purchased the third book yet, but I'm pretty sure that once I finish reading A Court of Silver Flames, I'll be picking this up as well as the second book inside the Crescent City series, and I'll read the third book too. My plan is to finish these 3 books and then deep dive into Throne of Glass because I've heard that Throne of Glass is the most well-established world by the author so far. For me personally, Sarah J. Maas's books are just total entertainment and I don't expect anything more from them. I also like her kind of writing style because it is very engrossing and it just puts you in the place while you're reading the story. Now both the books in this series that I have are already very huge. They are at least 600 to 800 pages long each. Still I want to go forward and read these, and I'm very sure that I might end up rating this one 5 stars because in February I read 3 of Sarah J. Maas's books from the Akota series. I read A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Winds and Ruin, and A Court of Frost and Starlight. Frost and Starlight was not that great, but I thoroughly enjoyed the other 2 books inside the series. So based on my experience, I'm expecting the same kind of things from this one too, but in a bit more complex way since it's adult. So this is the next one in my TBR. The next one is a YA or new adult romance, and I've heard nothing but great things about this book too. It is actually a cozy type of romance and not something that is steamy in any way. I personally like the cozy side of romance more than the steamy side, and it seems like there are not that many recommendations inside that particular category that I am attracted to. Now this book has been suggested by Anchal so many times ever since she read it last year, and when I saw this book cover for the first time in her channel itself, I've been craving to read this book. But I did not buy it until very recently because for such a short book it was quite overpriced if you ask me. The book is Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Sher Lee. The author is also coming out with their second book this year. I think it's a fantasy, but I'm not sure. So I want to finish reading this book, and if it works out for me, I'll probably try to pick up the second book this year itself. Just look the cover of the book. It has a tiny little corgi. So for me, that's enough reason to go forward and read this book because I'm a huge dog lover. I'm just going to read the blurb from the back of the book because I don't want to mislead anyone. Meet Dylan Tan. He juggles school and delivery runs for his aunt's struggling Chinese takeout in Brooklyn. Winning a mooncake competition could bring the publicity they need to stay afloat. Enter Theo Summers, a charming, wealthy customer who convinces Dylan to be his fake date to a family wedding full of crazy rich drama. This romance is supposed to be just for show, but soon Dylan's falling for Theo, for real. With the mooncake contest looming, Dylan can't risk being distracted by rich people problems. Can he save his family's business and follow his heart, or will he fail to do both? Love wasn't on the menu. That sounds very cute and comfy, at the same time a little bit emotional. It gives me the same kind of vibes as I Love You So Mochi by Sarah Poon. I read that book 2 years back and I still have vivid pictures of it in my mind because it was just quite similar to this one in its tone. Basically, I want to read this book just to know what this corgi is going to do. Let's just wait and see how it goes. The next one is a YA contemporary romance, and the book is A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Barnard. Now, I found about this book for the first time in one of Murphy Napier's videos like years back. I think I read Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella way back in 2020, and I wanted to read some book that is very similar to that in its tone. So I saw Murphy talking about this book way back then. For some reason, I did not buy it, and finally I got it in one of the used book sales that I went to last year. And it is also a great copy. You can just see this cover, right? It is pink and it has a heart pattern in gold. My camera is not capturing the gold properly, but you can see the metallic, right? Now in this book, we follow our two main characters, of whom Steffi doesn't have the ability to talk and the male lead Reese does not have the ability to hear. And it is the love story that happens between these two people. I've heard that it has a good representation of some mental health issues, just like Finding Audrey does, and is also just as sweet in its tone. The blurb of the book doesn't say much, so I'm not going to read it for you guys because it's basically what I just said. But again, heard nothing but great things about this book and I want to give this a try. So let's just wait and see how this goes. The next one is the first book inside a YA dystopian sci-fi series, and it is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is the first book inside the Chaos Walking trilogy, and I have all the 3 books from the series with me. One of you guys have been asking me to read the series ever since 2021, and finally I am going to pick this up and read it this year. The main reason why I think that this will be a 5-star read for me is because of the author. Because I've read like a handful of books by Patrick Ness so far, and I've enjoyed each and every one of them. They are very deeply emotional and kind of bleak at the same time. I don't know how he hits that perfect balance, but every time that I've read a Patrick Ness book, I felt super deeply emotional and it scars me a little each and every time. And if I'm not wrong, this is also his second most popular book after A Monster Calls. I have not watched the movie Chaos Walking yet, but I think I will watch it after I finish reading the series because I want to experience the story as a whole because I've heard really interesting things about it. Now, the story basically happens in a world where all the women in the world have ceased existing and there are only men right now. That's basically all I know about this book, and how they are surviving in this world is the actual plot. Based on my experience with Patrick Ness, I'm sure that he would have handled and explored the concept that he has chosen pretty well. And I'm also expecting some supernatural elements in this one because he has that one going on in most of his books always. This is a very worn out copy, yet I want to read the story from this one because it just looks so loved. Let's just wait and see how it goes. The next one is the first book from an adult epic fantasy series again. The final book of the series is expected to be released this year, so if it gets released, I will be able to finish binging the entire series this year itself, but I'm not sure. Let's just wait and see how it is going to go. And the book is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, which is the first book inside the Burning Kingdom series. Again, I'm not going to try and explain the plot of this book to you guys without reading it. I'm just going to read it from the blurb. And the specific reason why I want to read this as soon as I can, and I'm also predicting it to be a 5-star read, is because it's an Indian culture based fantasy. Here goes the synopsis. Trapped by her despotic brother within the crumbling walls of an ancient temple, Princess Malini dreams of vengeance. Meanwhile, maidservant Priya, forced to disavow her power and her birthright because of her past, dreams of freedom. In a world beset by wild magic and turbulent uprising, their destinies will become irrevocably tangled, and together they will set an empire ablaze. It sounds quite action-packed as well as filled with a lot of magic. Let's just wait and see how it is going to go. The main thing that I'm expecting from this book is the proper depiction of Indian culture as I saw it in the Tiger at Midnight trilogy by Swati Teerdhala last year. If I'm not wrong, the series is also sapphic, so I think it'll be a bit more fresh in terms of inspiration inside the Indian fantasy culture. I also have the second book from the series, The Orlean Despot, with me on my shelf, so I'll probably binge through the first 2 books before the last book comes out. Let's just wait and see. But as of now, I should say that I'm pretty much pumped for this. The next one is a historical fiction if I'm not wrong, and it is also kind of literary fiction in a way because it is like deeply intensely sad. It is also one book that many booktubers, many bookstagrammers, many readers have read and been wrecked by. Every person that I've seen talking about this book has been broken by the book in at least a small way. Despite that, I'm craving to read this book because there is something within me which just calls to this book and wants to read it. And it's also quite a huge book. I acquired it only during the last few days of the past year, and the book is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. You can see that the book is huge, right? It is like a brick of a book, and I also saw that the audiobook of this one boasts for more than 20 to 25 hours, so it is easily a huge book. I don't know how I'll feel about this book while reading it as well as after finishing the journey of reading it, but this is easily one of the books that intimidates me the most in my TBR. I have bigger books than this one on my shelf, but this is the one which intimidates me the most because, you know, I've heard that it's very brutal in its tone and depiction of things that are happening to the characters, and it has like all the trigger warnings that anyone can ever think of. I don't know if I'll be able to handle that right now or not, but I can see that if I finish reading during the summertime itself, it'll at least not depress me as it will do it in winter. So of all the books in this TBR, especially this one is the one which I want your opinions on, because I'm quite excited and intimidated at the same time by this book because of its content. But let's just wait and see, because I don't know how I feel about this, but just because of the emotional toll that it seems to be taking on people, I'm predicting this to be a 5-star read for me. The next one is by an author whose writing I just love to the core, okay? I've read only 2 books by this author from the same series, but trust me, I know that this author's writing will be magnificent and out of the world, and just by reading those words itself, I'll just be transported to some other place that is out of my body. And the book is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I've just read the Strange the Dreamer duology by this author, and trust me, I have never read any other book that is much more beautifully written than those 2 books. I'm sure that there are other books also that are out in the world, but I have not read any. Even see the cover of this book, it is very magical, it is very mystical, it just draws you in. I know the basic plot of this one, but again, I'm just going to read it from the blurb of the book because I don't want to mess it up again. I don't have the second book from the series alone with me, I have the third one with me. So I'll probably end up buying the second book and binge through the series, because I know once I start reading this, I will want to consume the entire story. And this is also one book which I'm going to heavily annotate, because I know, okay, Laini Taylor's writing is out of the world. She will make me highlight like at least 4 to 5 lines per page, because you know, she has that tendency to, she has that ability to. Now I'm going to stop rambling and just going to read the synopsis for you guys. In general, Karo has managed to keep her 2 lives in balance. On the one hand, she's a 17-year-old art student in Prague. On the other, errand girl to a monstrous creature who's the closest thing she has to family. Raised half in our world, half in elsewhere, she has never understood Brimstone's dark work, buying teeth from hunters and murderers, nor how she came into his keeping. She is a secret even to herself, plagued by the sensation that she isn't home. Now the doors to elsewhere are closing, and Karo must choose between the safety of her human life and the dangers of a nearly destroyed world that may hold the answers she has always sought. I'm sure Karo is just going to get into that elsewhere through that door, because who the F wants to live in this world when you can be transported to a fantastical one? Even though it is like deathly dangerous for you. I know I would choose the other world, and I'm pretty sure that this character would too. And I've heard that the main character in this one has blue hair growing out of her head naturally. Just imagine how cool that must be. So yeah, I'm going to read this ASAP. Next we have a mystery book, and if I'm not wrong, you can read this as a standalone as well as the first book inside a series. And the book is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. And in this book, we follow a very unlikely group of people who are nearly 80 years old in this retirement village, and all 4 of them come together once a week to discuss unsolved murder cases. And they call themselves the Thursday Murder Club, and if I'm not wrong, they might be meeting on a Thursday, hence the name. I'm just guessing here. And while they are doing this thing, what happens is, out of nowhere, a murder happens where their club meeting happens each and every week, and they get this opportunity to solve the first live murder case of their lives. So we can see that they are nearly 80, but they are choosing to go forward and just experience life for themselves and try to solve the first live murder case of their lives. I'm super pumped to read this one, and I also think that it will be a cozy mystery with some hints of darkness here and there. And if I'm not wrong, there are 3 other books in the series which have been published so far. If I end up liking this one, I might probably pick up the other books in the series too, but let's just wait and see. Just as I said, this gives me both cozy as well as dark vibes. Let's wait and see in which category it falls into. The last book in this TBR is the only non-fiction that I've added, and I probably think this will be a 5-star read for me, because it is a super intellectual book but written in a very easy language, and I've heard nothing but great things about this book too, especially inside the non-fiction circle. I actually got this book as a recommendation from one of the other books that I started reading way back in November or December of 2023, and that book is The First Cell by Azra Raza, which talks about cancer and its severity. And the author mentioned this book a lot many times within the first half of the book itself, and this book is The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, in which the author talks about the process of evolution with the help of the selfish genes that we have, which help us to evolve into the people that we actually are. I'm just going to read the blurb from the back of the book again, because I don't think I'm intellectual enough to explain this to you guys without even reading it. So here it goes. The selfish gene caused a wave of excitement among biologists and the general public when it was first published in 1976. Its vivid rendering of a gene's eye view of life in lucid prose gathered together the strands of thought about the nature of natural selection in a conceptual framework with far-reaching implications for our understanding of evolution. Time has confirmed its significance. Intellectually rigorous, yet written in a non-technical language, The Selfish Gene is widely regarded as a masterpiece of science writing, and its insights remain as relevant today as on the day it was published. And just see the text inside the book. It's tiny. It's going to be like a textbook, and I'll probably listen to the audiobook and follow on with the physical copy because otherwise I will get lost inside the book. I'm pretty sure that it will wreck my brain at the same time help me learn a lot of stuff. I bought this from the Chennai Book Fair as a used copy in one of the used bookstores. You'll be seeing a book haul, or it might be already out. I'll try to link it in the description if it's already out, or if not, please do wait and watch for it because I got some really good books in the book fair too. So yeah, this is the last book inside this 5-star prediction TBR. So yes guys, those are all the 10 books on my 5-star prediction TBR. You can see that I've included a lot of series inside this TBR itself, but I've just shown you the first book. My plan is to finish reading all of these books / series in the first half of the year itself, as I said before, but it might change based on the other books that I read during the time also. If you've read any of these books, please do let me know down in the comments how they are, what I can expect from them, and if you have any suggestions of reading some of these tough books, please tell me that also in the comments because it will be very helpful for me. And if you're going to read any of these books that I've talked about on this TBR with me in the first half of the year, please feel free to tell me that too. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.